Okay, we had to talk about Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards. Now, normally, I wait until the series is over before I actually give my breakdown and synopsis of what occurred throughout the series because in these playoffs, anything can happen. However, in this in particular series against the Timberwolves and the Thunder, it seems as if there has been a pretty consistent and definitive theme that has gone on throughout the first 4 games, and I just can't continue to ignore and overlook it, and we have to talk about it. So, Game 4, Minnesota OKC, and this was certainly going to be a very interesting outing for this series, not only because the determination of this game was going to really outline how long the series is going to be, either ending in 5 or 7 games, but more importantly, there was a lot of information that was gathered within the first 3 games that left a lot of people wondering what exactly we were going to see in Game 4. The first 2 games, we saw a lot of dominant play from the Thunder, in large part because of what they were able to produce offensively, which was spearheaded by Shea, but also due to the inconsistent showings. Matter of fact, not even inconsistent. None of the role players from Minnesota really showed up in the first 2 games, and I think that had a lot to do with the lack of scoring from a Wolves team that certainly could have done better. Game 3, Minnesota responded with a much more physical tone, which was certainly welcome. I never agreed with this idea that Minnesota card to play after the first 2 losses was complaining about the level of physicality from OKC and the inconsistent reffing, because truth be told, Minnesota, in my opinion, is at their best when they also play physical as well. So meeting that physicality early on really resulted in not only easy points in transition, but also something that OKC, it took them a little bit too long to address early on in that game, and they end up getting blown out. Which then brings us to Game 4, and because of the outcome of Game 3, I thought there was going to be a consistent pattern from Game 3 over to Game 4 in hopes that Minnesota was going to be competitive and potentially pull off the win and tie the series 2-2. And to be fair to most of the players out there that play for the Wolves, in all honesty, a lot of that did happen. It's the reason why they scored 126 points against this Thunder's defense. It's the reason why they ended up recording more rebounds, assists, shot better from the field, the free throw line, scored more points in transition and in the paint. You would assume that this was a game that they were going to win, but no, they end up losing to the Thunder 128-126. And what makes it even harder to fathom this loss is that the way they got to 126 isn't because of their best 2 players, it's because of the supporting cast members that were inconsistent in the first 2 games. Jaden McDaniels scores 22 points, records 4 rebounds, 4 steals, and shoots 60% from the field and 50% from behind the arc. Coming off of the bench, both Dante and Nikhil have struggled all postseason long, but tonight they answer the call. 21 points for Dante, shooting 64% from the field, 63% from behind the arc. 23 points from Nikhil, probably his best performance in his postseason career. Going along with those 23 points, he also recorded 6 assists, 2 steals, and shot 60% from the field and 62% from behind the arc, and even Naz Reid poured in 11 points. As a matter of fact, even Rudy came along for the ride as well. He recorded 13 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 of those boards were on the offensive glass. So you had the supporting cast with you. A lot of the numbers favored you. Matter of fact, this is the first time in playoff history that a team can record more assists, more rebounds, shoot better from the field, 3, and a free throw line, and yet still lose. And the reason why you do so is because both Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards were god-awful. Both of these players combined for a whopping 21 points. Not 21 apiece, no. Randle with 5 points, Anthony Edwards with 16. Both of them shot below 40% from the field. They combined 1 for 10 from behind the arc, and they were responsible for 10 of the 21 turnovers that Minnesota recorded last night. So what were the consistent themes, and what exactly did we see out of these 2 players that have been a detriment not only in this series but also in series past throughout this era of Minnesota basketball? Well, for starters, Julius Randle was bad, terrible, horrifically embarrassing, and quite frankly, it makes a lot of sense why Chris Finch, for the second time in this series, deemed it necessary to pull him off the floor in late game situations. He finishes tonight with 5 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, turning the ball over 5 times, and shot a whopping 1 for 7 from the field, 0 for 3 from behind the arc, and only got to the free throw line 4 times. And yet, that stat line, as bad as it is, still does not do any justice to how hard it was to rewatch this game possession by possession from Julius Randle. Now, you may be wondering, well, Lo, when someone goes out there and only records 5 points and shoots 1 for 7 from the field, I'm assuming it's already a bad game. How could it be worse? And the reason for this is because there are so many possessions that do not show up in the box score that resulted in a negative outcome, and it's due to what Julius Randle was producing or not producing. And the easiest way for me to outline this is that for whatever reason, the second time in the series, Julius Randle deems it necessary for him to start backing down and wrestling with Lou Dort, J-Dub, and Alex Caruso. Why? Why are you doing that? Why is it that you deem it necessary to believe that it's an advantage for you to bang down low with those 3 players? It makes no sense. Way too many times was the entire offensive flow completely disrupted because Julius Randle thought that, hey, if I'm backing down Caruso, maybe something's going to happen. Nothing happens. Defense just sits there. No one shifts. He throws a grenade to his teammate, forces them to chuck up a shot. Less than 5 seconds left to go in the shot clock. Same thing happens even when a double may be sent. They're sitting there banging down low, double gets sent. He throws a terrible pass to another teammate. Whole offensive flow gets disrupted. Less than 5 seconds left to go in the shot clock. Now they're throwing up a grenade. And even when there's times in which he wasn't able to get the pass off, way too many times he's just trying to insert himself physically against players that have no problem with banging down low with him. The amount of times I witnessed this happen, and in real time I noticed it, and I'm like, why do you keep doing it? But watching it again, it's egregiously bad. And what's even more telling throughout this series is that even though, yes, if you look at like his series average on the surface, like, oh man, he's playing good basketball, so why are you complaining this much about it? Please, let's remember, game 1, he had an outer body experience and start making a bunch of threes in the first half. Second half, not so much. Third quarter went scoreless. In the fourth, when the game was practically already decided, he scored 8 points. To be fair, I think 4 of those 8 points were some pivotal points, but more or less in that second half, nothing. Second game, terrible. Straight bad, and that's when Chris Finch probably realized, hey, if I take him off the floor, we actually look significantly better. Game 3, I give him credit, he actually played really, really well. But here we are again, where Chris Finch is realizing, hey, I take Randle off the floor, we're able to score 41 points in the fourth quarter. And that's telling. Now, on to Anthony Edwards. The reason why I'm not going to be as critical on Ant that I was on Julius Randle has a lot to just do with the fact that how OKC is defending both players and how both players are responding to said defense. Randle is sitting there putting himself in compromising situations, and instead of actually making certain reads, continuously making the same mistake over and over and over again, and inserting himself into situations that he doesn't have to be in. Anthony Edwards, not as much, because it's way more dedication from the Oklahoma City Thunder's defense to leverage his weaknesses against him to make it more difficult for him to get off, and then everyone else to get open opportunities. So heading into the fourth quarter, not only on the timeline, but even in the broadcast, the ongoing theme was Ant isn't taking enough shots. The first half of basketball, Ant only took 2 shots. Then in the third quarter, I believe Ant took 4 or 5 shots, but one of those shots really don't matter because they were at the end of the quarter, he just like took a heave. So really he was heading into the fourth quarter only attempting like 6 shots throughout the entire game. And this was also a conversation earlier in the series as well, that Ant just needs to be more assertive and needs to push himself out there. And I have always been an advocate of players not falling for that malarkey, because it just depends on how teams are defending you. And if you watch this series, you can very clearly see the way that they were defending Anthony Edwards was to stop him by any means necessary. The best example of this, I believe, was in the second or third quarter, where Ant comes off a screen from Rudy Gobert, and Casey does really good screen navigation, but as soon as Ant believes he has an angle, he almost like winds up for a drive, and not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but all 5 players all shift in response to Anthony Edwards attempting to drive. And quite frankly, that's been pretty consistent for Ant, not just this series, but also last year as well, because a problem that Anthony Edwards has had to deal with is his lapse in passing and playmaking and decision making throughout a pick and roll or at the top of the key and making proper reads. Now, I give all the praise in the world for Ant because where he was at last year to where we are right now, major improvements. But when you're dealing with a team of this caliber defensively, you have to be much more prepared to make proper reads rather than trying to just beat them with your athleticism or shoot your way into a game. And I think that's what ended up happening in the fourth quarter. And in all honesty, Chris Finch is just way too comfortable allowing Ant to just operate at the top of the key and pick and roll. And it's very clear that's not his strong suit, especially against defenders like these, where they are up in your face, very aggressive, kind of picking you apart, especially your handle. And it's way too often where Ant is very reluctant, a bit resistant to attack the defense and understand how to occupy multiple defenders, especially when he's coming off of a pick and roll. And this has been an ongoing issue with Ant, again, not just this series, but throughout the last 2 to 3 years. He's talked about it consistently throughout this regular season. He talked about it against a series against the Lakers where he'll see multiple bodies and he just immediately picks up the ball and immediately passes it. And a lot of times there's no need for this, right? There's times where the baseline help is like Alex Caruso, or against the Lakers, it was like LeBron or Rui. And it's like, bro, you can still get to the rim. But I do believe a lot of times he's getting in his head because how often he may turn the ball over or not be secure in his ability to make the proper reads. And a lot of it is because he does telegraph a lot of his reads as well. There's a moment where he's driving, he immediately jumps off of his feet and is trying to lay the ball up, but then tries to pass at the last minute. And Caruso is basically covering both grounds when he leaps up vertically and forces a turnover. There's another time where he's trying to drive, collapse, and kick out to the corner shooter, but he telegraphs this so much so that J-Dub immediately knows what he's trying to do and shoots right over to, I think it was J-Mac over in the corner, which then Anthony Edwards off his feet get hung up and he tries to just dump it in to Julius Randle, where Randle then foolishly goes up on Chet. But a lot of that just stems from the fact that Anthony Edwards just doesn't feel comfortable in those situations, rather than when he's getting screens off ball or multiple bodies setting screens for him and he's able to move with some momentum. DHOs also work out really well for him as well, but effectively him working with a head of steam in action instead of trying to gather that head of steam off of the dribble, him getting that type of momentum in his favor before he even touches the ball is way more favorable, not only for him but also the rest of his teammates, because he's able to shift the defense way more, attack the basket, and then make way easier reads than he was before. But what I didn't like is in that fourth quarter, I believe Ant just fell for the trap. And I call it the MJ gimmick, and a lot of people on Twitter got upset at me for that. But what I consider to be the MJ gimmick is this idea that you hear Stephen A. Smith or other people who are analysts say that, oh, you need to give me 40, you need to give me 30, you need to go out there and shoot your way into a win. And way too often there's a lot of players, and I grew up a Kobe diehard fan, and I watched Kobe do this religiously, where instead of just being patient and waiting for that moment, that opportunity to go for the home run swing, you go out there and you just start taking a bunch of BS because you believe that the way you're going to win this game is falling in love with this idea of shooting your way to a victory. And Minnesota didn't need that. They were producing enough points to keep up with the Thunder periodically throughout this game. They didn't need someone to come in and hit a home run. They just needed someone to come in, put some more bodies on the bases, and kind of put themselves in a position to where when the opportunity strikes, you can then have all the time in the world to get an open opportunity, and then that's when you swing for the home run. But step back shots on Lou Dort, you trying to shoot over Chet from behind the arc, attacking the basket and just getting stripped not once but twice, like it was really difficult to watch. And I was seeing the same thing that I've witnessed from so many guards before him fall in love with this idea of, I'm going to insert myself into this game by shooting my team into a victory. But that wasn't the call, because OKC was positioning themselves for you to fall for that trap all throughout the game. But even with all of that being said, the defense, I don't know what I was witnessing from the Timberwolves, not just this game, but this entire series. But game 4, I refuse to believe that Chris Finch would allow them to go out there and defend the way that they did without telling them in the huddle, hey, stop helping one pass away. The team that has the defensive personnel, the team that now has the recipe, the blueprint, after watching the Denver Nuggets force a Game 7 because of what Denver was able to do defensively, shrinking Shea's driving lanes, forcing him to be a passer, throwing multiple bodies at him. And yet I'm watching Minnesota for the third game in 4 attempts, flat out just allow Shea to go one-on-one. Barely run a zone. And then even when they do shift and send some type of help, they are sending it one pass away. Shout out to Shea. Shout out to J-Dub. Shout out to Chet. They played amazing. They made their shots. They did what they were supposed to do. But damn, I mean, when they're wide open, I mean, well, why not? Why not? When you're, for whatever reason, switching with Rudy Gobert on Shea, I mean, hell, why not? Why not? Why not have a crazy game? Why not go crazy? Why not have 40 points? Why not have 30? Why not have 20? Why not shoot crazy from 3? And what's even worse is that they could have shot even better. And oh yes, before I wrap this video, Julius Randle, because there's certain things that may have schematically been wrong defensively, but then there's other things where it's just flat out effort. Julius Randle defensively was somehow worse than he was offensively. There were stretches where Shea's off the floor, J-Dub's not even interacting in the set, and Julius Randle's playing defense as if like it was his first time playing basketball. Just losing whoever he was attempting to defend over and over and over again. Julius Foulius was on full display last night, and it was terrible. Terrible. And it's sad that Chris Finch and his adjustment to be made to address this is to basically bench him. And they've now shown in not 1, but 2 games that they are actually better with Julius Randle off the floor than on the floor. That's terrible. But hey, those are my thoughts. That's my time. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Also, if you like game breakdowns like this, let me know as well, because I'm a bit hesitant to put this type of content on the channel because I just don't know what the response is going to be. But let me know as well. Hit the subscribe button and notification bell. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.